Hey everyone, it's Johnny here from Hockey back with another video. Jim Rutherford just had the press conference today addressing the Tanner Pearson injury and the setback and him being done for the year. I also want to talk about the Canucks as a whole, and Rutherford did discuss and took a lot of heat from reporters, journalists, and just in general Canucks media on all the issues surrounding this team. There's so many issues surrounding this team. I want to address a bunch, including the trade rumors. So if you're a new subscriber, welcome. I hope you hit that button. It's free. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell, and obviously leave your thoughts down below, Canucks and general. The Vancouver Canucks, it's an interesting conversation. They are in a spot right now where I look at them on paper and I don't think they're that bad. I think on paper, I actually put this team in a playoff spot. And I think on paper, they have a lot of skill. But Rutherford outlined it in the press conference. They're not a team. So many individuals. I think it starts right at the top from JT Miller and that contract, and then obviously the injury problems. But he addressed a lot. I think starting with the Tanner Pearson stuff, Quinn Hughes calling out the organization, or calling out at least the situation and saying it wasn't handled properly. And then on to the situational with the trades potential, the potential trades that are going to happen. I'm saying trades because they're inevitable at this point. And Rutherford, he was very clear. Like, there was no skipping over anything. He was very clear. He said, we're not going to be able to do much until certain contracts are moved out. And I think we can speculate on what contracts that we're talking about. Just specifically OEL, Oliver Ekman-Larsson being scratched, healthy scratched. That's one contract. Another contract, Tyler Myers. Another contract, but more so an asset I still see is Brock Besser. I think Brock Besser still can provide a lot. Obviously a higher cap hit, but I do believe a team can look at Brock Besser and find a good fit. Those are just three contracts to outline. And I obviously the more recent one in JT Miller, but Rutherford was saying that as the cap goes up, JT Miller is not going to be concerned. That's a guy you need, a specialty guy. I don't know if I agree with that statement, but the contract was just signed in the offseason, which is crazy to say. So Rutherford kind of has to back that one versus like the other ones where OEL's decision wasn't his. Obviously looking at Myers that was signed before we got there. And then of course, looking at a situation like Brock Besser, maybe he's not the biggest fan of Besser. I don't know, but obviously there's a lot of concerns around this team, but I do want to also pick apart a conversation with Rutherford. And again, creds to the Canucks media. They were really going at him. I don't know if Rutherford was the guy that really deserves this because Benning created a lot of this mess, but Rutherford did discuss the situation with Bo Horvat quite a bit. And he was very specific to say that the contract offer, the latest contract offer the Canucks have handed Bo Horvat, he believes is fair up until the point of this season where now Bo Horvat's having a career year and the contract that they're offering is definitely below market value for what he could get in the open market. So there's so many issues with the Canucks. I have notes here, but I also want to discuss specifically some of the Canucks targets and some of the guys that will get traded, because I have talked about it in so many videos, but just based on what I've heard now from Rutherford, I think it's pretty important to take what he said publicly, because I could tell some of the things that Rutherford was being asked, he tried to go the PR route and sway away from the honest truth. But even when he was directly asked if they've spoken to Rick Tocchet and if they have spoken to outside candidates for the coaching job, and if Boudreau is done, he didn't just say, no, Boudreau's our guy, we haven't talked to anyone else. He actually expanded and kind of went into it a little bit and said he has spoken to other potential candidates or spoken to people of people. And I think that was his way of going around it. But I think it was pretty clear that with him saying a lot of the core players will still or won't still be here and Boudreau could not still be here, I think that's a big indicator. And Jeff Patterson, who I believe asked a question or a couple of questions, and there was a few things that came out of this interviews or press conference. Sorry. So a couple of things, he's been pretty honest and taking the heat. But the one thing that he also said was when he was discussing, when he was discussing the talk of Bo Horvat's contract, he was saying that he was over, or the Canucks would be projected to be over the cap, which is not necessarily true. I think that's based on projections of what they're going to do with other players. And that starts with a guy like Andrei Kuzmenko. So I think if the Canucks were to re-sign Kuzmenko at whatever number that is, if I had to take a guess right now based on Kuzmenko's numbers, it would probably fall. I mean, look at a couple contracts in the league right now, like a guy like Pavel Zacha. Zacha just signed for 4.75 per year. And I look at his numbers in comparison to Kuzmenko's. That's not too far off. And everyone thinks like Kuzmenko just entered the league, but Kuzmenko is a guy that is now into his mid-20s. So he's not like this young 22, 23 player. And Rutherford talked about it a lot in the presser, saying he wants to target those 24 and under players. Well, I think with Pavel Zacha getting 4.75 and he's in around 30 points to this point, and I think he's played around the same games as Kuzmenko. That might put Kuzmenko above. If they want to go bridge deal, maybe it's like a 2-3 year deal. I could see in between $4 to $5 million for Kuzmenko. And that's a lot for the Canucks cap picture right now. But if they were going to try to go long-term with Kuzmenko, especially at his age and what maybe Rutherford's trying to accomplish, they might have to basically give Kuzmenko what Boeser's making right now, which is $6+ million at his current rate. So I think that's a big risk in itself, but also, and I like Kuzmenko a lot, but if they make that contract, if they make that decision, Horvat is gone, right? I think unless they can make some miracle trades, move out some contracts, kind of what Rutherford said, Bo Horvat's gone. And that's what we've kind of discussed. I also do want to address just quickly in my notes, as I was trying to earlier, the guys that they're trying to target, that younger, under 24, and they're hard to make. Like, obviously for a guy like Kirby Dach, who went to Montreal, or Romanov to the Islanders, like those kind of deals are out there. And the potential is there. Like Lafreniere's been in the trade conversations. I don't know how easy that is. Roslovic in Columbus, he's mid-20s. He's been in conversations, but he's a Columbus boy. Zadina, I actually think Zadina, and I've talked about it, he's an interesting one with the Red Wings. I wonder if the Canucks could look at an option like that. The Red Wings have a couple players like that where they haven't really panned out yet. They're in their younger 20s. Puljujarvi, but again, the Oilers Canucks making a trade, I don't know if that's realistic. Denisenko with the Florida Panthers, he's been kind of up and down, but his projection, like the way his potential was looking, he should be a lot better or a lot more accomplished early on in his career here. So those are just options. I know even like a defenseman like Ryan Merkley, I don't know if that's a fit for the Canucks, but he's been in conversations from the San Jose Sharks as well, a young defenseman. So there's so many conversations right now and what Rutherford's trying to target. But in terms of what I would expect right now, it's the Canucks having to retain cap on a Myers and maybe trade him, combining with the fact that they could trade Boeser for not much. Like it'll have to be like either retaining on Boeser or you're not getting much in return. So making those two trades, that's the only potential of where the Canucks could re-sign Bo Horvat and re-sign Andrei Kuzmenko. And that's concerning for Canucks fans that they could lose one or both if the Canucks can't figure out their cap situation and long-term plans. I think the only guy that's safe, even with Elliot Friedman's comments, are Elias Pettersson, and he's been unreal this season. I think even Quinn Hughes with his comment now and with the contract, I do think there's so much potential for Quinn Hughes that if the Canucks are really trying to go for a full switch, I don't see it happening. Personally, if I can make the prediction right now, I think Quinn Hughes will stay as a Canuck, but that could change so quickly. Honestly, the Canucks, as of last year, I was saying Demko's an untouchable. And now we're talking about a potential Demko trade in the next year. Like, it's been so crazy for the Canucks. So from the Tanner Pearson injury to all the trade rumors to the behind the scenes, like he even talked about employees and just people in the Canucks organization, like how much of a flip there's been in the last couple of years. So there's so much to kind of unwrap here. And I'm going to continue to talk about the Canucks. Like we've even joked on the podcast, and we'll talk about more with Lucas on the pod. It's been like a Canucks conversation every week. So it keeps changing. It keeps like developing in terms of different storylines. And I just wanted to address, based on the Rutherford interview and the trade rumors and trade talks, what's going on, because Boudreau could be gone, Horvat could be gone, Kuzmenko could be gone, Boeser could be gone, Myers could be gone. Like there could be a bunch of guys in the next few weeks to months of them just see you later. And again, Kuzmenko has his own control right now. Like he could be like, screw this. I want to play out my solid year, because Kuzmenko could look at this as like, hey, I'm having really solid numbers right now. If I can push even closer to a point per game and showcase myself and be in the open market, Kuzmenko could take this big time for himself. So he also controls a lot of that, same as Horvat. So we'll see what happens with the Vancouver Canucks going forward. Rutherford, that was like an honest presser. And honestly, a lot of journalists and media representatives are talking about it. It was honest, but it was long overdue in terms of addressing these recent issues and recent things that have come up. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like, hit the notification bell. The Canucks chat will continue, guys. Whether you like it or not, I'm sorry. Canucks fans, I'm really sorry. This is just a disaster, and I hope it gets better. I wanted to see the Canucks in the playoffs. I wanted to see Canadian matchups, but the Canucks, is it playoffs? Is it Bedard? Is it somewhere in between? They've got to figure it out and go in an actual direction and have a team direction, because this right now is a mess. Let me know your thoughts. We'll chat soon. Peace.